Hello everyone, welcome back to Noteworthy ENT. Let us discuss the development of face in this lecture. Now before I start the lecture, I would request you to like the video and subscribe to the channel as it helps to push my content to a wider range of audience. Now coming straight to the topic, during fourth week of development, after the head fold is developed, two prominent bulges appear on the ventral aspect of the developing embryo, and these are separated by the stomatodium. Now in this diagram you can see this is the developing stomatodium, and cranial to it is the developing forebrain, and below it is the developing pericardium. Now this stomatodium, which will eventually form the mouth, is separated from the foregut by the buccopharyngeal membrane. And with due course of time, the mesenchyme over the developing brain, it proliferates and eventually forms the frontonasal process. And this stomatodium on each side it is bounded by the first arch. So face is derived from the structures that are lying around the stomatodium, and the unpaired structure is the frontonasal process from above, and the paired structure is the first pharyngeal arch, also known as the mandibular arch. Now let us have a look at this diagram, this being the frontonasal process and this being the developing stomatodium, which is bounded on each side by the first arch, that is the mandibular arch. And this mandibular arch, it gives off a bud superiorly, which is known as the maxillary process, and the lower part forms the mandibular process. So the face is formed by the five primordia: the unpaired frontonasal process, paired maxillary processes, and paired mandibular processes. So these five primordia cause the development of the entire face. Now with further development, there is an ectodermal thickening which develops on the inferolateral part of the frontonasal process, and this is known as nasal placode. Now with further development, just above the stomatodium there develops an ectodermal thickening which is known as nasal placode, and this nasal placode it eventually deepens to form a nasal pit, and there are elevations on either side of this nasal pit. Medially, it is known as medial nasal process, and laterally, it is known as lateral nasal process. Important thing to note is that initially, this nasal pit is communicating with the stomatodium. And we'll see eventually how these structures they help in the formation of the face. Another important point to note is that superiorly and laterally there is a lens placode which eventually forms the eye. Now coming to the development of various facial parts. Now the lower lip, the mandibular processes of both the sides, they grow towards each other and fuse in the midline. So these mandibular processes, they grow in the midline and fuse to each other, and hence they form the lower lip and the lower jaw, and hence also forms the lower border of the stomatodium. Now the formation of upper lip is more complex than that of the lower lip. We'll see how with this diagram. Now first what happens is that this maxillary processes, they start their growth medially, and with their growth they first fuse with the lateral nasal process, and with time they also fuse with the medial nasal process, and also the medial and the lateral nasal processes, they also fuse with each other, and hence after their fusion the nasal cavity is sealed off from the developing stomatodium. And what happens is with their medial growth the frontonasal process this frontonasal process it becomes narrower, and also the size of the mouth also reduces, it also becomes narrower. So the formation of upper lip again, The maxillary processes they grow medially and fuse with both the nasal processes, which also fuse with each other, and with time they also become narrower. That is, both the processes grow towards each other, making the frontonasal process narrower, and the developing mouth also becomes narrower. Now, there is an interesting point about the innervation of the upper lip. Now, as you can see, the upper lip is formed by these two processes, that is the maxillary process and the frontonasal process. So, both the lateral parts are formed by the maxillary processes, and the part in the middle is formed by the frontonasal process. However, what happens is that the maxillary processes they overgrow the frontonasal process. So the epithelium covering the middle part, that is the overlying the philtrum, is also formed by the maxillary process, and the mesodermal component of the middle part is formed by the frontonasal process. Now we'll see how this affects the innervation in a minute. Now coming to the cheeks, the upper part is formed by the maxillary process and the lower part by the mandibular process. Now, this was all about the general development of the face, and we'll quickly summarize it. Now, there are three main processes, the unpaired process being the frontonasal process, and a couple of paired processes being maxillary process and mandibular process. And this frontonasal process, it develops from the mesenchyme ventral to the developing brain, and it forms the middle part of the upper border in relation to the stomatodium. That is, it forms the middle of the upper border of the developing mouth. Now, it forms the following structures, that is the forehead, the external nose, the nasal cavity along with the nasal septum, and the philtrum of the upper lip. And the innervation is from the first division of trigeminal nerve, that is the ophthalmic nerve, except for the philtrum area, which is innervated by the maxillary nerve. And we have seen why, because the epithelium of the maxillary processes they overgrow and cover the philtrum area. That is why they are supplied by the maxillary nerve. Now, coming to the maxillary process, they develop from the mesoderm of the first arch from the dorsal part, and they form the lateral parts of the upper border of the developing mouth, and they lead to formation of the lateral parts of upper lip and also the upper cheek, and they are supplied by the maxillary nerve. Coming to the mandibular process, and it is formed by the ventral part of the first arch and forms the lower border of the stomatodium and leads to formation of the lower lip, chin, and also the lower part of the cheek, and it is supplied by the mandibular nerve. Now coming to the clinical correlations of the development of face. I'll cover the development of nose and the development of oral cavity, especially that of the palate, in a separate lecture. Now, coming to the clinical correlations, as we have seen that there is fusion of the various parts in development of the face. So, if this fusion is incomplete at any given stage, it leads to various anomalies. And the common anomalies being the hare lip. Now, if you see closely, the upper lip of a hare, it normally has a cleft. So, clefts of the upper lip are also known as hare lip. Now, the various types of hare lip can be, it can be unilateral, bilateral, or midline cleft of the upper lip. Now, when the maxillary process it is not able to fuse with the median nasal process on one side, it leads to a unilateral hare lip. And if it happens on both the sides, it leads to formation of a bilateral hare lip. And this midline cleft of upper lip is found when there is defective development of the lowermost part of the frontonasal process. This is the midline cleft of upper lip. Now, a similar thing can be when there is inadequate fusion of the mandibular process on both the sides. This leads to a cleft of the lower lip. Now, what is an oblique facial cleft? When there is non-fusion of the maxillary process with the lateral nasal process, it leads to a cleft from the upper lip to the area of medial angle of eye. Now, coming to macrostomia, this occurs when there is inadequate fusion of both the maxillary and mandibular processes from both the sides. And if there is excessive fusion and leads to a small stoma, which is known as microstomia. Now, another entity which is known as Stretcher-Collins syndrome or mandibulofacial dysostosis and also known as first arch syndrome. It is a genetic condition which is inherited as autosomal dominant. In this, the entire first arch may remain underdeveloped on one or both the sides, which may affect the lower eyelid, leading to coloboma type effect, and also it may affect the maxilla, mandible, and the external ear. Now, what is retrognathia? When there is receding chin, that is, mandible is small in comparison to the face. So, this was all about the general development of face. Please give your feedback in the comment section below or write to me if you have any suggestions or any recommendations. I would love to help you out. Thank you.